I am friends with John Henry, and he knew about my involvement as an advocate for classical and traditional public art and architecture. I also have a background in philosophy, and so thus was very interested to find out more about Hildebrand's aesthetics, since it directly relates to my work. We advocate for traditional standards of beauty against this modernist idea that the world is ugly and therefore our buildings should be ugly. We also advocate for fighting against the mechanization that we see in so much public art and architecture in a way that Hildebrand does as well. Well, we think that through studying philosophy, you can come to see that there are objective standards of beauty, and shows you ways to discover what those standards might be. I've enjoyed seeing how he has responded to modern architecture, saying that we live in a depoetized, mechanized time, and so therefore, rather than reflect the zeitgeist, it's essential that architecture fight against it and bring some of that poetry and beauty into the world that's otherwise been lost. Oh, I think it's crucial to have events like this, to have young people exposed to important ideas like those of Hildebrand. It can spark an entire lifetime of research and thought to experience and think about ideas that they would otherwise not been exposed to. I gave a presentation about the nature of architecture, going back to ancient Greece and Rome and showing how there has been this continuous tradition up until the 20th century with when we see the advent of modernism, which completely sundered our architectural tradition and instituted new standards, eliminating traditional understandings of beauty for this functionalist, mechanized aesthetic. Well, one example I gave of bright lights is the University of Notre Dame School of Architecture, which is one of the few places in the country where one can still study classical architecture. And there are some other schools, including the University of Miami, that are saving remnants of this tradition that has been largely eliminated in the 20th century. Another reason for hope is the rise of what's called the new classical architecture, with architects such as Duncan Stroik, who was at Notre Dame, actually getting classical buildings built in today. I like to say that architecture is the ideal made material. It is ideas instantiated in brick and mortar. And so therefore, philosophy matters so much because our buildings do reflect underlying philosophy. Likewise, philosophy can help us understand what a building should achieve. It can give us the criteria for determining good or bad architecture. Philosophy also allows us to see how architecture is the embodiment of a civilization. It's the mirror in which a culture sees itself. And so it's important to understand the philosophy underlying architecture of a particular time, since it says so much about who we are and who we wish to be. Well, it's a real honor to have been invited to speak at the seminar. I've greatly enjoyed the other talks and meeting so many of the bright, engaging people who are here. I have learned a lot, and it will definitely affect my work going forward.